Welcome back to this week's edition of the Main Street TV Local Sports Break. Hi, I'm your host, Ralph Miranda. Well, we took last week off, as the Rebels did as well. Had a week off due to fall break, but we reconvened with Coach Hunt this week to talk about the Bearden game. I know the Bearden game was a good 10 days in the past, but we had to recap that game with him, and we did. Look forward to talking to him about that. We also talked to him a little bit about what they do on break. You know, when you have a break, you have to kind of manage kids being out of town or parents wanting to travel along with practice time because you have another game coming up next week. So we discussed that, plus looked ahead to the Cleveland game. The Cleveland Blue Raiders defeated Maryville last year, and there'll be another tough test for Maryville this coming Friday night. So all that and more on the Main Street TV Local Sports Break with Coach Derek Hunt of the Maryville Rebels. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to the Main Street TV Local Sports Break. Hi, I'm your host, Ralph Miranda. I'm joined now by the head football coach of the Maryville Rebels, Coach Derek Hunt. Coach, you guys have just come off fall break. You had a week off from playing football. So real quick, take us through what a week off like that looks like, what you guys do, how much time do you all get off, how do the coaches handle it, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so our open week lines up with fall break at school. So nobody has any classes, and you know, that's a big deal for high school students. And so we try to give them what feels like some of a break, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even when we played, even when our open week didn't line up with fall break, so our open week was during school, we still tried to give them, a couple of days off just to get away. I mean, you want it in the middle of the season, and right now ours falls on week 8, which is kind of towards the back end of the season. So we definitely want them to have a little bit of time away from football just to kind of reset and refresh. And so, we played last Friday or two Fridays ago, and then they had Monday, Tuesday, and most of Wednesday off. We practiced Wednesday evening because there was some traveling. You know, it gives them a travel day, and then we went Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice, and had 3 pretty good, hard practices. You know, it was really good. So, and then had the weekend off again. You know, so now we're gearing up for a region game at Cleveland, and we'll have practice today, just like always. But as coaches, we had a meeting on Wednesday, and just kind of hash through where we're at, and your depth chart changes from early in the year to now, and really it has for us every week this season.
Right.
So we feel good about where we're at, and at least moving forward, and we still got some work to do. There's no question about that.
Give me the advantages and disadvantages of a week off. I mean, I know in football it's always good to have a bye week because you can heal up injuries. Guys get the bumps and bruises healed up. But then again, you also got a week off. So is there a disadvantage to a week off, or no?
I think so. Last year, no, it was 2 years ago, we played our best game the week prior to our open week. And I hated it, man. I hated losing that momentum and, the routine of the game week, and you'd already promised, at least a day or two off. And it's like, we're playing so good now, and here we are going to give a day off. And it's perfect example is, you see it in the NFL all the time. You see it in Major League Baseball all the time right now. Those teams that won their division, and they got 5-6 days off, and now they're having to come back and play ball. And the Atlanta Braves didn't look so good at home. I think it was the first time all year they've been held scoreless at home, and they're playing the Phillies, who didn't win the division but swept the wild card, and they're hot. Kind of the same idea. We when we're playing good, we want to keep playing, and so that's one of the downsides. But I do think that the pros of an open week outweigh the cons. So
Okay.
there's a lot of good that can come with it. You can reset your focus and, like you said, heal up maybe a little bit.
Another exciting feature that we'll be unveiling on our Main Street TV local sports break is the question of the week. Each week, we'll be choosing one question submitted by you, our viewers, to ask Coach Hunt. To submit your questions, subscribe to Main Street TV on YouTube and comment on this or any other of our local sports break videos, or follow us on Facebook or Instagram and comment on any of our local sports break posts. Then tune in each week, Thursdays at 7 p.m. on our Main Street TV YouTube channel to catch the new episode and maybe hear your question asked on the air. Let's talk a little bit about the Bearden game. I know it's kind of in the rearview mirror, but big game for you all, a region game. Bearden, one of the better teams in the region. Very competitive football game. I mean, gosh, 14-14 at the end of regulation. Take us through that game a little bit and kind of some of the things that you felt you all did well and some of the things maybe that you didn't do so well.
Yeah, I mean, that is exactly what we wanted in the football game. We wanted to hang around and have a chance to win it at the end. I mean, that was kind of the conversation all week. We knew we weren't going to blow them out. They're so good, and we needed to try to win. 17-14, 24-21. That it's going to be that type of game for us to win it.
Right.
And they're really good on both lines of scrimmage. They've got super talent at the skill positions, running back, quarterback, receivers, DBs, and they've got a lot of 3-year starters on defense. So we knew it wasn't just going to be easy. Had a great opening drive and shot ourselves in the foot, had to settle for a field goal and missed it. And that was tough to have. We take the ball, have confidence, going to try to feel good about our what we have, our plan going into it, and just one miscue there, and then we come away with no points. That's tough, and they go down and score, and so it's like, man, we're playing behind the 8 ball again. Here we go.
Right.
But our kids didn't flinch. I was really proud of that. That was a really, really big game for Will Jones, our freshman quarterback, and he didn't flinch either. Just played ball. I thought our offensive line and our defense kind of kept us in those games, that game. And they were the two that was we were going to lean on heavily. We did some really good things for sure. I thought defense flew to the football. We had some miscues on both sides, not many, but they were drive killers on offense.
Right.
And they were touchdowns on defense.
Right.
And in a game like that, it doesn't take much, but we got to the end of the game, and they had a big punt return, had a chance to kick a field goal for the win and missed. And we decided to take it to overtime and try our luck there. Really proud of our kids, had a chance to win, decided to go for the win with everything that's happened this year. And I think they threw 2 passes. So kind of felt like overtime, might have played into their hands a little bit, getting the ball on the 10. You got 4 plays to score from the 10. But I also trusted our guys to get it done, and I still do. But that was obviously that call's on me, and I take credit and blame for that. I told our kids after the game, if obviously in hindsight you might call something else, but that was our best play all night, and I think we ran it 6 times earlier in the game and averaged 5 yards a play. Credit to Bearden for just making a really good play. But I told our kids after the game, we still believe in them. And if put in the same spot, I think we'd make the same decision.
Take me through a little bit. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you guys took a 14-7 lead at one time. I think it was maybe later in the game. You had a 14-7 lead. And of course,
10 minutes to go in the game, we scored.
Okay. So now they get the ball, and obviously they drive down and tie the football game. Take us through what you guys talked about doing defensively after your score to maybe keep them out of the end zone. You said they only threw 6 passes or so. So I guess you thought maybe they're pretty much going to try to run the ball since there was that much time left. So take us through a little bit of what your philosophy was in trying to stop them from tying the football game.
Yeah, so they'd actually only thrown 2 passes the whole
Two
game.
passes, okay.
And we did we didn't want to change much because I mean, Lord, we'd gotten to the fourth quarter and they had 7 points.
Right.
But they threw one of those passes on that drive. I think it was a third down. It might have been a second long, but I think it was a third down, and they just found a hole on the sideline and got behind us a little bit. But fortunately, we rallied to make the tackle, but that flipped the field.
Mm-hmm.
So we had played two downs great. They kind of flipped the field there, and so then when they got across the 50 and got down there, it was 4 down territory for them. That point in the game, and they're running the football, and their running back is special. I mean, he's just a sophomore. I think he had 200 yards. And they've got like 2 others that are just as good. I mean, the quarterback runs it a lot, and he's really good. He's fast, and so they once they get down there, it's really hard to stop them because they know they've got 4 plays to get 10 yards, and you got to have to make them negative, to really have a chance.
Right. Yeah, you got to do some run blitzing and maybe load the box, and then you risk the chance, them throwing the football. But I want to ask you, take us through, and I have a lot of respect for you as a coach and for any coach in this situation, because obviously in overtime you score, you're down by 1. You don't have a whole lot of time, maybe a few seconds to make a decision, right? I mean, are you going to go for, or maybe you had already made that decision, I don't know, but you still got to decide, do I go for it or not? What play do I call? You got a play clock running down, so you don't have a lot of time. So what goes into that decision? I mean, once you decide you're going to go for it, does your offensive coordinator give you some suggestions? Do you know what play you want? Do you look at your kids and look in their eyes and see if they're ready to go? You know what I mean? What goes into that, making that decision?
Yeah. So when we had to punt with about 2 minutes to go, maybe a little less, and they had a big return.
Right.
Our defense had a big stop to make them kick it. That was the game. If they make that, pretty much the game's over.
Right.
We lose 17-14. When he missed, kind of felt like, all right, it's house money at this point.
Right.
And so that kind of gives you a little bit more of, I don't know, courage, boldness. So I kind of felt like I'd pretty much made the decision at that point. We're going to go, if we have the opportunity to win the game on one play, we're going to do it. We're going to try to win it. And felt really confident in it. Hadn't picked the play yet because we've got 2-point plays. I mean, everybody that practices has 2-point plays.
Sure.
So they scored first, and I just felt like, all right, if we don't want to go back and forth with them. They've not thrown the ball but twice the whole game.
Right.
Their running backs had 200 yards, and they're getting the ball on the 10. So you know what's going to happen. So I just felt like our best opportunity to win it.
Right.
If we've got one play, right there, that right next to the goal line, we need to try to go win it. But what really made my decision was we actually we just did a hard count, and they jumped, and we had the ball on the 5. So first and goal from the 5, and we handed off and score on the first play. So you just felt like, listen, we score on the first play. We're dominating the line of scrimmage, which we were at that point in the game. Why not just try it again? Mm-hmm. And so that's what made my decision. Hey, I felt really confident in that. We felt really confident in the play. We actually tried to hard count again.
Right.
Out of a different formation. And, they were lined up how we thought they'd line up. And they had one kid make an incredible play. Mm-hmm. And like I said, a credit to him for the play that he made. Right. Sure, I've changed my mind a million times, not on the decision, but on the call.
Sure.
Since I think that night I think I wrote down 12 or 14 different calls that I would have liked to have tried. But you only get to try one. And you literally have about 5 seconds to make that decision.
Well, sure.
And I went with my gut. Could we have called our 2-point play? Sure. And it might have worked, and it probably would have, now that I think about it. But at the end of the day, it's like we just mashed them on the first play. Mm-hmm. And we ran a very similar play. You could argue the same play. And we blocked, we had it blocked up, and one kid made a phenomenal play. And we're one guy away from walking in the end zone, probably untouched.
Right, right. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Cleveland coming up. This is a region game, a team that beat you guys last year, so they're confident. And right now, I think you guys sit maybe fourth in the region behind Bearden, Bradley, and I think Cleveland. So you have a chance to move up, and that's obviously important when you come to playoff seeding. So talk a little bit about Cleveland. I've watched a little bit of their film. They look so similar to a lot of football teams in high school nowadays of what they run, but talk about their personnel and some of the things that they do well and maybe that you feel like you can exploit.
Yeah. Quarterback's a really good player. He kind of makes them go, in my opinion. Ralph, he runs it really well. They run a lot of power read, do some option stuff. They are very unique on off. They're a very unique team altogether. Their coach came from Blackman High School. And they kind of self-coined the fastest show on turf is what they call themselves. So they're no huddle. They try to snap the ball as fast as you can, which you see that in college sometimes now. It's kind of a flavor that Tennessee, Ole Miss, now Oklahoma. So very up-tempo team. They're very good at the skills, which Cleveland always is very good at the skill positions. But this quarterback, in my opinion, is what makes them go. They are explosive. And anytime you try to sub, they're going to hurry up and try to snap the ball real quick, so they'll keep your guys out there on the field if they can. They kick on sides at least once a game, that like just cause, it's not like I don't think it's necessarily because they see something. They just decide that's his mentality. They go for two a lot instead of kicking a field goal. They're very aggressive, going for it on fourth down a lot, so that's their MO. That's their mentality. They're going to stay aggressive. And obviously, if you make the right calls at the right time, it can definitely play into your favor. It could bite them as well, So at the end of the day, we've got to execute. They'll have about 16 different formations on field goal if they do kick it, to try to play with you, and so that's not necessarily anything that's brand new, but there's not a lot of teams doing it all the time. So So it's going to take some extra preparation. Defensively, they've done a good job all year of kind of being who they are. They'll play four down, even front. And, they've got an outside linebacker who I think is one of the best in the region. Super physical, aggressive, hard to block, plays in the box, plays in space. I mean, he's really good. And then the two corners, they like to man you up, and they can do it.
Yeah. So I guess it would behoove you then in that situation, maybe for your offense, obviously to shorten the game, some long drives, keep their offense off the field, give your defense a chance to rest. Would that be a correct assumption?
Well, yeah, and because realistically, when we take a touchdown on the second play of the drive, but that's not been who we are this year.
Right.
So for us to score points, it's probably going to have to become 10 to 15 play. We have executed our rear ends off type of drive. And so, yes, if we have those, obviously that means we're executing well on offense, but it also gives our defense a chance to rest. So absolutely we could accomplish that. It's an advantage us.
And isn't that kind of a double-edged sword too? I mean, a lot of teams want to be explosive, right? I mean, that's always good. But then there's nothing wrong with a 15-play drive. But the problem with the 15-play drive is the margin for error becomes bigger because now you've got lots of opportunities for a bad snap, and offsides, an illegal procedure, whatever. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
You're spot on. And I hate to say this, but that's kind of been who Maryville's been for a long time.
Right.
Not as explosive, probably as a lot of teams. We kind of hang our hat on the execution piece and, not beating ourselves. which is really, I don't think people realize how hard that is to do in the high school game, because that's so many teams' philosophies is, hey, make them execute for 80 yards, see if they can do it. Versus when you can throw it over somebody's head. Now, don't get me wrong. When we have the ability to do that, we're going to, when we can score fast. I mean, it's not like we're not trying to.
Sure.
We've got to do what we think gives our team the best chance for success. And the past couple of years, unfortunately, we've got to try to execute for 15 plays at a time. It's super hard to do. But man, it's satisfying when you can too.
No question. Well, Derek, we appreciate your time, and good luck this weekend against Cleveland. We'll catch up with you again next week, talk about the Cleveland game, and get ready for the big Pistol Creek rivalry against Alcoa. So have a good week.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Derek. Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of the Main Street TV Local Sports Break with the Maryville Rebels coach, Derek Hunt. We talked about the Bearden game. A tough loss for Maryville. Obviously, they played Bearden toe-to-toe. We talked a little bit about the overtime period and some of the things that went into the decision of making a call in overtime and what some of the things that the coach has to consider. We also talked about their break. Obviously, it's kind of a double-edged sword when you go on a break. You need some time to heal up and rest up and have some injuries heal up and the bumps and bruises and that sort of thing. But then again, sometimes you kind of lose some momentum when you go on break. So we talked about how the Rebels handle that particular issue with their football team. And then we looked ahead to the Cleveland, the Blue Raiders of Cleveland, and Maryville's got them coming up. It's a tough 3-game stretch coming up for Maryville as they close their season out with at Cleveland, at Alcoa, and then hosting Farragut. And the Cleveland game and the Farragut game will go a long way to determine playoff seeding for Maryville as they get into the TSSAA playoffs later this fall. So hope you enjoyed this week's edition. Make sure you stay with us next week as we will talk again with Coach Derek Hunt, recapping the Cleveland game and getting ready for the big rivalry game against Alcoa. For Nathan Miranda, our producer, for Coach Derek Hunt, I'm Ralph Miranda. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you next week.